And I've always, my whole life, been fascinated with seeing. And Sean couldn't be here at a better time. He's a living testimony. How many of you, and I'm sure all of you have heard this, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Seeing is believing. Well, the main reason I think those kind of come about, those metaphors, because we are visual creatures. The human species. We put everything in a visual format in this computer up here. One of the very first things that you imprint on from infancy is the face of mother. And we've all witnessed that with baby ducks. I think there are other creatures who follow that format. They're visual thinkers as well. We have our mind's eye. We have our imagination, which in my opinion is what really makes us so dominant on this planet. If we can think it up, then we can usually figure out a way to make it come forward. Now, I'm going to hit you with religious iconography. I've had people ask me, well, what is that? I've heard it, but what is it? You have been exposed to religious iconography your whole life. When you look at these symbols, these are icons. When you see the bow tie on the front of a Chevrolet, that's an icon. They also call them logos or symbols. And iconography is basically the study of symbols or images. It is a big section of art history, of which I've had to study quite a bit. There is also the branch of iconography that's called iconology, where you study the meaning of a larger program to which individual works of art belong. Now, it's a mouthful. But basically, you go back and you look at the big picture of what this symbol represents and who it affects. You have, later on in history, those people that I've grown to love so well, and I say that sarcastically, the iconoclasts. That literally means destroyers of all icons. They felt that it was blasphemous to paint a picture of God who is eternal and invisible. That's our buddies, the Puritans, and during the Reformation. They actually, in the Netherlands, went about when the Reformation was occurring and, broke priceless stained glass works of art, that had the religious connotations behind it. And to this day, it is inestimable what was destroyed at that time, in rebellion of the Catholic Church. The Orthodox Christians insist that God can be painted because he became a man in Jesus. Icons have been called prayers, hymns, sermons in form and color. They are considered the visual gospel. Icons are to be used in the home of Orthodox Christians as reminders of God's presence and for family prayer. Now, I'm going to read to you the whole second commandment. Most of us just know the first 9 words. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. Well, that's the start. It goes on. Or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in heaven beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the 3rd and 4th generation of them that hate me, and shewing mercy unto thousands of them that love me, and keep my commandments. And this was from Exodus. Now, if you're like me, then that pretty much states that we can't draw, paint, sketch, sculpt, practically anything, right? I mean, that's, for those that take the literal meaning. And my fascination with all this is, well, how do the Christians get away with the cross and the crucifixion? We see it everywhere. Even the Muslims, and we know that's kind of a touchy area here in this day and time. How do they get away with the crescent moon and the star? How do the Jews, how do they explain the Star of David? Well, just to sum it up, I'm trying to give you the Cliff Notes version of iconography, and I mean this is a class in college at college level that they spend semesters teaching. But basically, the Muslims and in the religion of Islam say, well, our symbol isn't holy. It is a symbol of nature. That was the phase of the moon when Muhammad was born. So that's how they explain their symbolism, their icon. Of course, we know the Christian icon. That is a representation of sacrifice, Jesus on the cross. And it's okay because God became man. And so, that's their interpretation. The Jews say, well, Star of David is just merely a symbol of a king, the king of Israel, David. So ours isn't holy either. So that's how they kind of get around. That's, the three biggies. Now, going back to the second commandment, this is one of the longest of the commandments, although people don't generally realize this because in most lists, the vast majority of it's cut out. If people remember it at all, they remember only that first phrase. But that alone is sufficient to cause controversy and disagreement. Some liberal theologians have even argued that this commandment originally consisted of only that 9-word phrase. They're still arguing it. It is believed by most theologians that this commandment was designed to underscore the radical difference between God as creator and God's creation. It was common in various Near East religions to use representations of the gods to facilitate worship. But in ancient Jerusalem, this was prohibited because no aspect of the creation could adequately stand in for God. Human beings come closest to sharing in the attributes of divinity, but other than them, it simply isn't possible for anything in creation to suffice. What is a graven image exactly? That has been the subject of a great deal of controversy. Of particular importance here is the fact that while the Protestant version of the Ten Commandments includes this, the Catholic does not. A prohibition against graven images, if read literally, would cause a number of problems. I know I'm repeating myself here, but I kind of want this to stick. It's very controversial even in this day and time. Only a few denominations, like the Amish and older order Mennonites, continue to take the second commandment seriously. So seriously, in fact, that they often refuse to have their photographs taken. Traditional Jewish interpretations of this commandment do not include objects like crucifixes as among those prohibited by the second commandment. Others go further and argue that the inclusion of I, the Lord thy God, and the jealous God is a prohibition against tolerating false religions or false Christian beliefs. Although Christians typically find a way to justify their own graven images, that doesn't stop them from criticizing the graven images of others. Some Protestant denominations criticize the stained glass windows used by Catholics and other Protestants. Jehovah's Witnesses criticize the icons, statues, stained glass windows, and even crosses used by everyone else. None reject the use of all graven images in all contexts, even secular. One of the earliest debates among Christians over the way this commandment should be interpreted resulted in the iconoclastic controversy between the mid-8th century and mid-9th century in the Byzantine Christian Church over the question of whether Christians should revere icons. Most unsophisticated believers tend to revere icons. They were called the iconodules. There's another fancy term. But many political and religious leaders wanted to have them smashed because they believed that venerating icons was a form of idolatry. There you go with the iconoclasts. One result of this conflict was that theologians developed a distinction between veneration and reverence, which was paid to icons and other religious figures, and adoration, which was owed to God alone. Another result was bringing the term iconoclasm into currency, now used for an attempt to attack popular figures or icons. So I'd say just about all of us in here have experienced iconoclasm even earlier this morning, right? Christian art began about 2 centuries after Christ by borrowing motifs and Roman imperial imagery, classical Greek and Roman religion, and popular art. Now, in 787 AD, there was the Second Council of Nicaea, which, Emperor Constantine, had all this set up and put together. And according to the Second Council of Nicaea, they proclaimed that we decree with full precision and care that like the figure of the honored and life-giving cross, the revered and holy images, whether painted or made of mosaic or other suitable material, are to be exposed in the holy churches of God, on sacred instruments and vestments, on walls and panels, in houses and by public ways. These are the images of our Lord, God and Savior, Jesus Christ, and of Our Lady, without blemish, the holy God-bearer, and of the revered angels, and of any of the saintly holy men. Now, I'm hitting you with the Christian side of things, and that Second Council of Nicaea, pretty much laid out what is known as the Bible today. Books were left out, books were included. Well, it also covered what you see, that vast visual memory that we all have. Now, here lately, about last 10 or 15 years, as the internet's binded us together, made the world a little smaller still, over in India, we're starting to learn more and more about their philosophies, their doctrines, and their view of the world and the universe. And my background's not as strong in that area, but anyhow, doing some research for my talk today, I thought I would venture over into the Indian religions. And today now, central to the iconography of Indian religions, or mudra, or gestures with specific meanings. Other features include the areola and halo. Now, the halo we all are pretty familiar with. Well, over in the Indian cultures, in their art, you see it quite a bit as well. There are, found in Christian and Islamic art, there are attributes represented by ritual tools such as the Dharma chakra and the swastika, and I know we are all pretty familiar with that one, the furba and danda. These use color and denote the classical elements, of water, fire, earth, and letters, and what is termed bija syllables, and from sacred alphabetic scripts and other features. The Indian icons I have found, we'll look at a few here in a little bit, are very beautiful, I think. They you will see, I'll give you a little, we'll have a little critique session here in a little bit, and you will get to see, the three big deities of Hindu, and the style in which they are portrayed, I'm in awe of, and the craftsmanship that is involved. Iconography also influences other disciplines other than art history. Iconography, often of aspects of popular culture, is a concern of other academic print disciplines, including semiotics, anthropology, sociology, media studies, and cultural studies. These analyses, in turn, have affected conventional art history. Discussing imagery as iconography in this way implies a critical reading of imagery that often attempts to explore social and cultural values. Iconography is also used within film studies to describe the visual language of cinema, particularly within the field of genre criticism. Now, I know I'm hitting you with a lot of pure, dry academic data and information. But basically, what I'm trying to instill upon you is the next time you're driving down the road and you see the little old white country church that we all are very familiar with, that is iconography, an architectural form. There's a reason that it is painted white. There's a reason that the windows are usually pointed. There's usually a reason behind stained glass. You are surrounded by iconography every day, and a lot of us just take it for granted. I hope to inspire you to take time, not just to see things, but to look at things. That's what I'm here for. Now, we'll move over. I brought a few images here for us to discuss and look over, and we'll have a little back and forth session. You all can critique to your heart's desire. Okay, thank you.